Game over, I'm a depressed person in trauma. And the more I talked with him, the more in awe of him I was, Vetri sir, because he's such a well-read person. With Dhanush, I could see that this guy is just so effortless in whatever he is doing. I have this very bad habit of asking questions, which Anurag Kashyap hates.
Hello, welcome to Film Companion.
Thank you.
I'm going to begin with this thing about language, right? This is a Tamil film we're talking about, Game Over. But you acted in some big Tamil films earlier in your career.
Yeah.
You acted in Aadukalam, and then you acted in some Telugu films that were big, like Mr. Perfect and Veera and all that. Now, these are big films, and yet the first time I felt you really clicked kind of in front of the camera, despite, I mean, I'm not saying the other ones were kind of, you know, uncomfortable, but it's something when I saw in Chashme Badur, suddenly the click happened and I said, wow, this, you know, she's really like a proper performer. What I wanted to ask is it a result of having been in front of the camera for a long time and therefore having a bit of exposure, or does language really make that much of a difference in the way you perform?
Both. When I started, I didn't want to be an actor. So I was experimenting with my life when I landed in South here, and I was doing Aadukalam and Thirumanninadam simultaneously, alternating the schedules there, just purely experimenting. So didn't know, and I was very honest with the fact that I don't know anything about acting, I don't know anything about the industry. I'm here to experiment with my life. Started learning from the scratch because I knew I don't know anything. So I did that for a couple of years. Now my introduction to acting happened in a language I didn't know. So, you know, you're told that this means this. And you don't mouth those words and lines in your usual life. So you don't know much of modulation or how to change your expression in between a sentence. You're told that, okay, this sentence is supposed to be a happy sentence. This is supposed to be a bad, sad sentence. So you just very box your expressions with every sentence. So you just emoting a sentence, not really feeling it as much. So my introduction to acting was like that. So for years it happened that way until I tasted blood with Hindi. And though it was not the plan, it was not like I was using South as a stepping stone for Hindi, because I never wanted to be an actor. So I was just going with the flow. And I got a chance there, and I realized, I think Chashme Badur also was midway somewhere, Chashme Badur, I realized that what kind of power I have here because I know the language inside out. How much I can really play with it, the improvisations, you know, the control over the scene. I realized that midway somewhere. And then I started to feel that, oh God, how much I can do in front of camera. Even though I'm not a trained actor, but now I know what camera and lights feel like. So this ambience is not new to me. Language is now in my control. So everything fell in place there. So there onwards, my way of choosing films to the way I act also started changing.
So when you come back to Game Over now, after that experience, is it still the old sentence by sentence kind of acting?
No, now it is not like that, because now I'm more confident of my craft, because now I've learned quite a bit in 7-8 years, and I now know what I can do with the language, even though this is still not my language, but I'm more familiar with it than what I was before. So, and now I know small tools of acting and performance, so I can use that to my advantage.
So these tricks of the trade that people talk about, what are they? Like you've talked about this, that you know, over the years, you know, you've picked these up. Are these as simple as, you know, how to make a profile that suits you, or, you know, things like hair and makeup, or is it also certain tricks in like the way you act? Like, I mean, what are the tricks of the acting trade?
I've realized that this profile and hair and makeup will not do anything to you. And I had stopped looking at monitors. I don't even know when did I last look at the monitor actually. I don't look at monitors deliberately, because I realized I am not cut out for films in which you are supposed to be checking your hair and makeup and profile. And I realized there's some gorgeously breathtaking looking women out there who look wonderful, and I cannot match up to that. And
but you did Judwa too. And
but you know, just to break that monotony so people don't box me into a slot. But I knew that I'm not that diva-ish looking, and I'm perfectly fine and comfortable with that. Then I realized the craft is just to psych yourself out into believing that you are this person, this has happened to you, That's my process of doing it. I'm not a method actor. I'm not a person who does a lot of homework in terms of watching reference films. I remember when Anurag Kashyap asked me to watch some, I don't even remember which, some French film before Man Marzi. I slept in 20 minutes after watching it. I was like, don't ever tell me to watch any film like this, because I feel wantedly or unwantedly, if I like the performance, I'll start imitating it.
Right.
And that will be the end of my spontaneity and natural and the realness that I can bring. So my way is to psych myself out. Just lose yourself in front of the camera. I have no inhibitions whatsoever now, how I look. The fear of how you look, how that expression might look on your face. I just lost that somewhere in midway. I don't know when. Yeah, that's when I found myself.
So when you say you lose yourself in a character, that's a psychological space,
Yes.
right? But are there also like certain physical things that one does to prepare yourself for a character? Like, I'm going to walk like this, I'm going to move my hand like this. So
So that happens, see, when you're psyching your brain out, your body language will automatically get affected.
Right.
So I don't do a special training unless and until I'm doing a, say, film like Surma, where I have to be a hockey player. So I need to be a certain way physically. Or if I'm playing a 65-year-old woman in Sand Ki Aankh, then I need to be a little wary of how I'm walking. All that is special. But for other films, when I psych myself out mentally, my full body language changes. Like for Game Over, I'm a depressed person, a person in trauma. So I don't walk that confidently in the film ever. Okay. So the whole way of me walking changes, and it's far, far away from me in personal life, because I feel I'm a pretty confident person in real. So for me to lose that whole confidence in front of the camera was torturous. But once you psych your brain out, your entire body changes.
Okay. Yeah. You've also talked about how being around directors has changed you, and being around certain actors. Can you talk about something that, like on the sets of Aadukalam, which was probably your first major film in terms of, you know, like what really happened on the sets? You know, there was Dhanush, there was Vetrimaaran. Can you talk about a scene or something which you went in a certain way but then ended up doing a certain way?
I'll tell you the first scene that I did there. And Vetri sir was pretty much aware of the fact that where I'm coming from, what my mindset is at that point, that I don't know anything about this whatsoever. And he used that to his advantage. A good thing was he casted me in a character which is supposed to be slightly lost in the scheme of things. And I was lost in scheme of things as Taapsee as well. So he used that to his advantage. And the first line that he made me say was someone in a scene where, you know, I'm meeting Dhanush's teacher for the first time and defending that I am with him and it's okay, I am a major, I can handle that and all. So that scene, and then they suddenly drag Dhanush out, the cops come and they drag Dhanush out, and I don't know what has happened. I'm in middle of this area which is not familiar to me, and I have to just react. So he did that entire sequence the first day, and I was pretty much like, what the hell is happening kind of a reaction, which he got on camera, which kind of worked. And I knew that this guy, about Dhanush, I did my Google search well. So I knew he's a brilliant actor. I had a brief idea of Vetri sir also, because he did Polladavan before that. And the more I talked with him, the more in awe of him I was, Vetri sir, because he's such a well-read person. Even now I'm in touch with him. Even now I get a little, you know, the first director is always very special. So I'm very scared of telling him about a film. I'm very scared if he'll like it or no. I remember he saw, I think the only film of mine he's seen till now is Pink, and he said he liked it, which was a big thing for me. And now I'm like trying to think, when can I ask him to see other films slowly. But yeah, my biggest recognition will always be when it comes from my first directors, that, you know, especially him. And the fact that it won 6 national awards, and I called him and said, I'm not surprised, but I wish, you know, I can also get on one day with under your direction. And he's like, yeah, let's try one day, maybe under my direction we can make a film where you can also get one. So there are a lot of these special things with Dhanush. I could see that this guy is just so effortless in whatever he is doing. All I could do was probably be a sponge there to absorb whatever he is doing. Very cooperative. I took some, like, I don't know how many takes in the beginning to just get a basic sentence right, and he was just standing there casually, not really worked up, nothing, and just like being there for me. So yeah, so I was just full, like my antennas and everything was all there, up, ready to absorb whatever I could from both these guys there on the set. And I have very vivid memories of those days.
You've said that you're a director's actress and that you kind of, but is that, a lot of people say that, how much of this is saying, I'm going to give all the responsibility for shaping my character to the director? I mean, do you also, when someone says they are a director's actress, how much of the performance comes from the director and how much of it comes from the actor?
The director becomes the wind beneath the wings. So he has to help maneuver me, which direction am I going. I'll take the flight, I'll jump. But you have to make sure you are there as wind beneath my wings to make sure you're going to maneuver me in the right direction. And that is why I say I'm a director's actor, because once I like the script, I said I'm good to go. I will jump into it. I will get my perception into it. You have to tell me if it's going a little too much, less, what. Then I'll blindly trust you. But I have this very bad habit of asking questions, which Anurag Kashyap hates, and a lot of other directors might. But I confess it to them in the beginning itself. I ask a lot of questions, and the logic is either convince me or get convinced, because I really want to be sure when I jump into a scene, because otherwise you'll look at my face and you'll know that I'm lying or I'm trying too hard.
Right.
I'm a very transparent person with my face is concerned. If I'm feeling anything, you'll get to know that. It works in my favor sometimes as an actor. It totally goes against me in real life at times, but that's how it is. So we have a lot of arguments. I have a lot of arguments with my directors, healthy arguments. But then the output is worth it. So we are okay to go through it.
So did you have any arguments with Anurag Kashyap about the scene where Rumi, after getting married to Abhishek, goes back to Vicky and kind of sleeps with the
Oh
man?
yeah, we had half a day. The shooting was stopped for half a day. We were arguing over how we're going to go about that scene. The thing was not, see, I read the script. I knew this was going to happen. That's okay. But Anurag Kashyap has that bad habit of writing things on the spot, which is again okay if you're not changing the scene 360 degrees. If you're going to change dialogues or whatever, little bit of movements, okay. But he wrote something totally different suddenly.
For that scene.
For that scene, which for me as a woman didn't go down well.
Like what? What was that that you objected
The
to?
dialogues that he wrote for that particular scene, I said, you're putting me off as a woman. If I'm watching as a woman, I'm watching myself, or I'm watching any other woman on screen. I need to be connected to this character because she's the protagonist of the film. The moment you disconnect from this character, you're done. I mean, there's no way you can save yourself after this. Even if she makes a mistake, you as an audience, you want to root for her. And if I say all these things you've written, I don't think I'll root for her. So I was thinking as an audience, as a female audience at that point, and I was telling him, and Kanika was on my side to an extent, and she was like, let's shoot it, maybe we can match it, change it in the edit and all. I was like, no, I can't perform it itself. I'm not feeling that. I need to be sure. So we had a half a day argument over it. I remember the entire everyone standing there, including Vicky, and like calming me down in between, and someone's calming Anurag down. So it's not like we are going at each other. It's about we're having a discussion, and both of us are strong-minded enough to stand on our points. So then I had to slowly try to make him understand. Then I slowly take him to the corner, make him understand, Anurag, listen, I am a female. I know how it is when a woman behaves like this. So give me that liberty of being the gender I am performing, and understand that if I do like this, it will be better. This way, it will be not so pleasant to look at. He understood. We found a midway, and that's how we did it.
That's what the scene is.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned a bit about that you're not the kind of person who came from the north to came to the south in order to break big in Bollywood and kind of stuff like that. But there is that theory here that a lot of the North Indian heroines come here, learn the tricks of the trade, learn how to be comfortable in front of the camera, and all they want to do is go to Bollywood. I mean, you've heard the theory, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So what do you think of that?
To each their own. For me, it was not like that. I know there are many like that, and there are some who try their hand in Bollywood after working here. Some work, some don't, and some who work probably just stay there. Who don't end up coming back. And that's what people keep asking me. Okay, and the funny part is, Baradwaj, in all this, they are trying to understand what am I doing. So they're not able to understand to slot me in this way or that. It's not like I'm not working out there, so that's why I'm working here. It's not like I'm not working out there, so I'm working here. I'm not doing the conventional big films, which I can easily do, like all other big actresses here. So it's pretty difficult, I guess, for people to wrap their head around what exactly is happening. And that's because I didn't have the conventional beginning, because my idea of becoming an actress was not the fame or not the fact that, this is a flamboyant profession. I was just experimenting with my life and I liked what I was doing and I genuinely like my job. So I'm doing what I like without wondering or thinking about how famous it will make me or how much of stardom will I get with this. I'm doing what I'm enjoying. I think that is why it's different from those theories.
Do you like the fame?
I like the fact that people want to invest their hard-earned money on my films, believing that I can deliver. More than that, I'm enjoying the fact that they're spending those 3 hours of my life looking at me, which is never going to come back,
Right.
which is probably more expensive than money. So that is fame for me. That is something that I'm really proud of and I'm enjoying.
I was speaking to Aishwarya Rajesh some time back, and she had an experience with this Bollywood film Daddy with Arjun Rampal, and she was talking about how much better she was treated out there than she generally is treated here, because there's this theory that the heroines that come from the north are usually pampered in the southern industries, and the others, the local girls, are kind of left to their own devices. Have you found any difference between the Bollywood and the Tamil Telugu film industries, the way they treat you?
Honestly, there's actually slight difference between Telugu and Tamil as well. And a lot of girls who work in both the languages will feel so. Well, of course, I work in all three, so I can see the difference in all three. Major difference being, I feel it's, the people who are on the set here probably have this big communication gap because of,
in
Tamil Nadu.
In Tamil,
they have a communication gap because of obvious reasons. I don't know the language that well.
Right.
They don't know probably Hindi or English. So it becomes awkward, because of which they try to not to say anything, probably thinking that, it might just be wrong or something. So that is there, because of which you feel that, am I not welcomed here? Or is it like, am I forcing myself here? But you wanted me to work in the film, which I used to feel in the beginning. I realize it's got a lot to do with that whole communication gap, because there's not a common language we can interact in. The moment I go to Telugu, there people know Hindi a little more.
Right.
So I can, even in the broken Hindi, we can still have a conversation and they're fine with it. And that's why things are different for me in Hindi. I don't know about the local girls, how they feel the difference. But for me, this was a logic behind the difference that did exist. So I decided to take that extra, when I realized this, I decided to take that extra step of trying to make myself comfortable for my own sanity and start having a conversation with everyone and anyone around on this set in broken Tamil or probably whatever broken English, Hindi I could manage there. And it was fine. I mean, I had to force it, take that extra step, which is fine. And I understand the logic behind it, so I don't have any complaints regarding that.
Okay. There's a series of films that recently happened for you, starting from Pink, right up to Badla. You've had Surma, you've had Naam Shabana, all these films. You have this very unique niche of, like you just said, the diva-ish star. So somewhere not that, but also not like to take an older example, like a Shabana Smita kind of thing.
Okay.
Like, it's like, this is a very interesting niche.
Yeah, midway.
Yeah, midway. Did you consciously go after this, or did it just happen, like this series of films just happened?
No, I consciously went after
it.
And because it also resonated with me as an audience and as a person. I don't watch the two, like, indie films, so to say. And
You just slept through a French film, you said.
Yes.
Yes, right.
And then the other extreme also, which doesn't entertain me or make me laugh for 2 hours and makes me feel, okay, question the logic behind it, I'll not do that also. Either you make me laugh for 2 hours, I don't realize that there are logical loopholes there.
Right.
Or you actually cannot even make me use my brain or be so slow in your speed that I'm like sleeping in between. I am a midway audience. So I bring my brain to the theater, but I need to be entertained there. You need to like have my attention for 2 hours. So I'm that audience. So when I choose my films, I choose like that. If can you hold my attention for 2 hours? It can be any genre. But you have to make sense and hold my attention for 2 hours.
But am I saying, when you say choose, I mean, are they all looking at, oh, I have this midway film, I'm going to go to Taapsee Pannu. Is that happening, or are you going after those films?
Now it's happening that way, that, this is a film that has got a commercial appeal, but not the conventional old school commercial appeal. It still has a brain and still has commercial appeal. So they know that this is where I will do that. So I think that's now it's happening that way. But in the beginning, I was going for these films because then that's the reason for me to do Judwa too.
Right.
Because before people slot me saying that she cannot be that the glamorous diva, and I was like, I started my career doing that. Forget about Aadukalam, but in Telugu.
Yeah.
So you can't slot me saying I can't do this. I can do this. So I just wanted to give them a glimpse of how I can do this as well. But I choose to do things which are midway. So that's how I started choosing.
Is Game Over a midway movie?
It is.
Okay.
So definitely you need to take your brain into the theaters. You can't just leave them out. But at the same time, it's not like you're not able to understand what's happening, but you are still trying to overread or between the lines, or it's not like you'll not understand also. It's too high tech and you're not able to understand. No, it's very simple. It'll keep you glued for 2 hours. Whatever keeps you glued for 2 hours is commercial.
Okay.
And that's what it is.
Okay. You've spoken a lot about the fact that you're an outsider that came into the industry, and Kangana has brought up repeatedly, Kangana Ranaut has brought up repeatedly the whole thing about she's been questioning this nepotism thing. There are two questions I wanted to ask. One is, nepotism has begun to be talked about in a big way in the Bollywood industry, but it exists equally in the Tamil film industry. It's there in the Telugu film industry. It's full of families. That's the way the industry exists. Now, how much of this is different from the way a lawyer passes on his practice to his son, or a doctor passes on his practice to a doctor, and how much of this is to be expected versus, I mean, in any profession, isn't it? Now, I have my own theories about it. I'm just curious about what you think about it. So, in any profession, isn't it expected that somebody coming from the outside is going to have a slightly tougher time than somebody who was born into the profession? So, how do you rationalize?
Okay. I agree to it.
Right.
And I'm perfectly fine with the fact that it's going to be like that. And I've accepted it long back.
Right.
Yes, it is a problem, but this is not just this industry's problem. It is every industry's problem. But it is a problem that will exist come what may. It's rule of the book. You better accept it as a rule than as a problem. And I did that. I know this is going to happen. I knew it when I entered the film industry. I maneuvered my way through in spite of this. So I don't complain about it at all. I mean, I know this happens. It feels bad when it happens to you, but it's not like you didn't know that this is going to happen when you entered the industry. I was very well aware it's going to happen to me.
You've had films taken away from you?
Yes. And at that time you're human. It hits you like a slap on your face. But then you think that you knew that this is going to happen sooner or later, and it'll keep happening. It'll happen to me again. No matter wherever I reach in life, it'll happen to me again. And I have kind of accepted it as a rule of the book, which is, I'm totally fine with it. In fact, I think being an outsider is my biggest USP. It's my big strength. Today, regular audience kind of roots for me as an underdog is because they associate themselves with me, that I've come from where they are, and I can relate to them much more than a lot of other star kids, and that's what makes me get an edge over others, and I'm very proud of that.
So the second related question I wanted to ask you is, don't you think a lot of this blame, so to speak, rests with the audience as well? Because let's take Taimur Ali Khan, right? So people are going after him simply because he's a star kid, right? And obviously people are watching these images. I mean, it's not just the photographers who are clicking these pictures, but there's a large viewing population out there that's consuming these images. So aren't they also in a way saying that if you give me Mahesh Bhatt's daughter versus Taapsee Pannu, I'm talking about the early part of their career, not now, then...
No, even now, not much has changed.
Okay. So I'm going to watch Mahesh Bhatt's daughter simply because I have a connect to that person, whereas I don't know who this is. So isn't that part of the audience's...
Yes, it's a vicious circle.
Right.
And we all are a part of it, media including.
Right.
We cannot deny that. I mean, here someone, it's that vicious circle where everybody's thinking maybe the other step will try to change its way and then it'll change. Whereas nobody's changing really. But yes, it's equally resting between the audience and the media, and it's a vicious circle going on there. What happens is, I'll give you some general examples because they have happened to me. There are magazine covers, there are certain media events, There are certain awards where I'm not even.
I like the air quotes.
Yeah. Awards where they are, I'm not even acknowledged at par because of everything else other than the credibility. Because I think I'm extremely proud of the fact that I have some of the highest rated films in the last 2 years of my career. But still, I am not even anywhere close. That only is to show you the difference, that it's not just audience created, it's media fed as well. When I'm sitting or when there's an interview going on with me and vis-a-vis a star kid, that gets more media people attending it than me. There are still a lot of media friends who actually are pretty nice, pretty good to me, and they are very supportive of the fact that witnessing my journey. But it's still, this difference still exists. And I've kind of made peace with it, and I'm fine with it because it gives, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that's how I've been taking it in last 2 years since Pink. It's been I'm noticing it since Pink, because that year I think a girl's heart broke because she thought she deserved much more than the way things were received. And there onwards, this girl took it to herself that she'll make sure every year she's going to give such a film that you cannot snub me anymore.
What is that film this year?
There are so many. Now this year I have Game Over. I have a huge budgeted film like Mission Mangal, but you should look out for Sand Ki Aankh.
So when I talk about Game Over, what is it that this particular director, Ashwin Saravanan, brought to this film that you kind of sense was new or interesting in terms of taking up the project and in working on the project?
I have not read this kind of a screenplay and story writing before, and I have read some really cool projects in the last few years and still reading some. Amazing screenplay, story writing. I got bowled over by that first, and then second was the character that I've not done before. It's new and challenging for me to do. But the first point was the story and screenplay. How a simple thing has been written so well in an interesting, multi-layered story, and all very seamlessly woven into each other. It doesn't stand out like, okay, this one scene is to portray this and this one scene is to portray. Everything is just so seamlessly layered and presented. I was extremely impressed with the writing.
Are you good at looking at a screenplay and watching the movie while you're reading it?
Yes, I only decide by that. Even when I hear it, I'm visualizing it in my head.
Okay, so when you listen to a screenplay in a non-Hindi language, is it a narration always, or is it a...
No, this one I read.
Okay.
Because Ashwin writes in English, so he sent it to me, the English version. So I read it.
All right. Anyway, all the best for Game Over.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Taapsee Pannu. Please watch me on Film Companion South. If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to Film Companion South.